Grid is live. Initiate.
Excellent!
I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
Bogus.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
My name's Norman Bates.
Oh, man, I'm so excited. I'm in on it.
Merry Christmas, movie home! We came, we saw, we kicked his ass.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
Oh, well. Let me go in and say hi.
Hail to the king, baby.
Hello there. Anyways, welcome to our Clone Wars season finale, series finale recap. Sorry for my really shitty Obi-Wan Kenobi impression, but we're here for it. It is May the 4th. Welcome all of you to the PJ Campbell Show. I have some really awesome guests that are joining me today, but really quick before we bring them on, a couple announcements. Last night we went over our top 10 Disney park attractions with a bunch of awesome people. Really excited about that. Later tonight, we are doing a Simpsons movie watch along. So if you guys want to watch The Simpsons with us, that's going to be at 10 p.m. EST, 7 PST. I always have to think about that. And then Tuesday, I am interviewing Pat Hogue on Famous Last Words. It's going to be a great time. He's French Canadian, I think. And that's going to be interesting to talk about because who respects French Canadians? And then Wednesday, May the 6th, we're doing a great Showman watch along for Suddenly Soundtracks. Along on Thursday, the rebroadcast is probably the best Suddenly Soundtracks of all time with Rhiann Chandler, John Roca, Mike Kalinowski, I believe, was on there. It was a great one. And on Wednesday as well, Something Rotten returns with Stacey Howard, Frank Janish, and PJ Campbell talking about The Mummy Returns. And then last but not least, Ryan Johnson month continues as we are watching Brothers Bloom May 8th, 10 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. PST. And with that, it is time to introduce our guest. First, Abby Friel, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk Clone Wars on May the 4th. So
I know it was funny because it dropped last night, and I didn't expect that because I thought it normally drops in the morning, like how Mandalorian does, where you have to stay up until like 4 a.m. in order to watch it. But they just dropped it on us, and I was really sad because I just watch it in the morning, and I didn't get to experience that nighttime cinematic with everyone.
Yeah, but you know what? It came early, and then we were blessed. So
yeah, we did get blessed. Talk about getting blessed. Landon, welcome to the stream.
General Kenobi.
Thank
I'm feeling good. How are you?
I'm all right. It's as I would say, it's a vibe.
Yeah.
It's May the 4th. I would say this is probably one of the best May the 4ths I've ever lived
I
through.
agree.
Because we got the season finale. We got a Mando doc, the news about Taika Waititi, and then Rise of Skywalker. Whatever you think about the movie, it has now become accessible to literally everyone.
We got news about Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker saga, which I am extremely hyped about. Love a good Lego game.
Could you imagine the battle on Crate?
Oh my gosh, dude. Well, they're saying it's gonna be like massive. Like there's gonna be like 500 characters you can play as. I'm in heaven.
Frank Janish also in the chat saying I'm at stupid work instead of gushing about Clone Wars. That is true. Frank, it's gonna have you on, and you had to work. Why are you an essential employee? Why would you do that? Honestly. Anyways, we're gonna jump into Clone Wars. I will kind of want to jump in straight into the first the last 4 episodes of the finale because that's what everyone's buzzing about for good reason. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's probably some of the best TV I've ever watched. And it's really hard to put that in perspective because there is so much TV out there, but like this is really good. Lane, I'm gonna throw it to you first. How are you feeling about these last 4 episodes?
I think it's phenomenal. Like, so to give a little bit of a background about my connection with the Clone Wars is like part of what got me into Star Wars. So I've really grown up with it, and it means so much to me. And to a degree, the Clone Wars is my Star Wars. So the fact that not only did we get to see it finished, which is a dream come true, but to see it finished in such a beautiful and heartfelt way it's incredible. Honestly, it's an honor to be able to watch something that you can just tell it has so much passion behind it. And I think on IMDb, it's like one of the highest rated. Like the first 2 episodes of this last arc are like some of the highest rated TV episode shows or TV show episodes. I meant, in like television, which is crazy.
I mean, and we can just jump into it. It's the Siege of Mandalore, which I don't think any of us expected it coming until I saw Sam Witwer tweet about something and goes, "Oh yeah, so this Siege of Mandalore arc that's happening, it's the best thing I've ever seen." And then that's the thing. I saw nothing else about it. I'm like, okay, hit me episode 9, 10, 11, 12. So the first episode of the Siege of Mandalore, I think they're planning and Ahsoka gets her sabers back. And it becomes, all right, where the hell is Maul? We're gonna find him and we're gonna capture him because he can't kill him. We've learned that. We've learned our lesson too much. And so Abby, take us through your thoughts about the first episode of the Siege of Mandalore. Like,
well, I think something that was just like for me at the heart of the Clone Wars is definitely Ahsoka's relationship with Anakin, and seeing Anakin give her the sabers, and then like that's the last time Ahsoka sees him, and he's still Anakin to her, and that's what makes the rest of the events of the Clone Wars so confusing for her and so heartbreaking. And so that's definitely the thing that stuck with me the most, because that as Ahsoka is on this journey, like post leaving the Jedi Order, she lost her mentor, and to like Anakin is gone for all of us, but like for her especially, just the turn from Anakin to Darth Vader is just so heartbreaking. And I just like can't stop thinking like that like scene is just so heartbreaking to me, like just knowing that's the last time she truly sees Anakin.
What's even crazier about that is because they get the helmets, like they dress up all the clones for her when she came back, and at the very last episode they're shooting at her, and I thought that whole thing was chilling because the thing that he set up, trying to make it better for her and like make her feel more comfortable, is the thing that nearly ended up killing her. So that whole dichotomy and juxtaposition was really cool. Landon, what you think about like the last point of Anakin seeing Ahsoka?
I think it's incredibly well done. The shots mirror each other when you look at when Anakin is looking at Ahsoka and then Darth Vader looking at Ahsoka in Rebels. If you've seen Rebels, it's exactly like parallel, and it's just so good. There's a lot of throwbacks to the original Clone Wars movie, which is so nice to see. Very nostalgic. And on top of that, like Abby said, her connection with Anakin. I've always said that the Clone Wars does an incredible job of fleshing out Anakin, because as much as I love the prequels, we don't really get to see Anakin as a character, and more just like he's the plot device. Does that make sense?
Yeah, something to push the narrative forward. The whole idea of like
he's Darth Vader, and we get to see him as a kid, which I think is very impactful, and we get to see kind of what's going on in his head. But I think that the Clone Wars really makes Anakin seem like a person, and it kind of the most makes it feel as though we are seeing the person that Obi-Wan talks about in A New Hope. And I think I was surprised at how much this last episode with Anakin really comes full circle, because I thought that from what we had already seen of the Clone Wars, we already had like a good enough grasp of Anakin, and to really see him right before Revenge of the Sith, being the person that we know he is in the Clone Wars and knowing what's about to happen, it's intense. It's really emotional. And then to watch Revenge of the Sith after that, which is what I've been doing, it's a lot. It's a hit to the chest.
Abby?
I agree with Landon on that. I think that
I think Matt Lanter definitely kills it in the role of Anakin. And it was a little weird in the last episode when she's like hearing Anakin, and it was Hayden Christensen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that kind of like threw me, like that
Yeah,
kind of
it's like, oh wait.
like, because you forget like how whiny his voice is, and Matt Lanter's is like so low and like
Yeah.
more of like a traditional like heroic voice, and like
Mhm.
then to like switch back to that, I was like, oh right, that's Anakin in this. But
It,
yeah, I definitely agree with Landon about a lot of that stuff.
yeah, Matt Lanter's voice is just very Anakin in the Clone Wars is just very much a mentor, you know?
Yeah,
Like
for
he's like
sure.
the person to look up to, and you do look up to him as a hero, so it's just even more tragic.
What's even funnier about that, because even with the the trial of Ahsoka Tano, became all the more around because him as a mentor is completely different than what a traditional Jedi mentor is supposed to be. And you could argue if anyone else had mentored Ahsoka, you wouldn't have seen her left to order, which is its whole other thing. It's a lot of like Force lore and stuff. Because like specifically speaking, everything's supposed to work for a reason, different places and different things. And like there's a reason Anakin was supposed to be Ahsoka's mentor, and the reason that she was supposed to leave the council, which is now the reason why she's survived Order 66 and all that. Shout out to Freddie Prinze Jr. that he's the only one who has like been able to speak this. I actually can understand it. Because Force lore is really deep.
I thought of Freddie Prinze Jr. as you were talking. That's funny.
It's nearly directly quoted from him, because that man is fucking genius when it comes to Clone Wars lore. So yeah, so we get there, and then she sees Maul. She's trying to chase him down, but he practically has her captured. But to his surprise, he didn't see Ahsoka. He didn't see Obi-Wan. It's Ahsoka Tano, who kind of scoffs at first, because he wanted to kill Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's the guy. And then you see this Padawan. I love watching Maul's hubris throughout the series, and kind of his general arrogance, yet his also really whacked out wisdom, because he's able to see it all coming through his anger and rage. Take me through, and we can jump into like the second episode of the four episode arc. What do you kind of think when it comes to like Maul and him being able to tap into a different field of the Force than others were? Landon.
I just think it's incredibly interesting. I honestly kind of zoned out, so I don't remember what your exact question was.
My god.
But I love that Darth Maul is so afraid, and it creates a very interesting. I think that this what's the second episode called? The Phantom Apprentice?
I think so, yeah.
It's some of the best stuff from Darth Maul that I think we've seen as a character, because it's so interesting to see him realize that he's just a pawn of Sidious, and to kind of come into his own and try to I think for the first time he's officially like, okay, Darth Sidious took me from my home. He trained me for his own purposes and then cast me aside. And now we're just pawns in his world. And I think that that's super cool, because it's such a good foil to have Maul against Ahsoka, because they both feel like they feel betrayed to a degree, because Ahsoka obviously feels very much like the Jedi Council has let her down, and to see her and Darth Maul agree, and literally the only reason that they start to fight is because Darth Maul says, I was planning on killing Anakin, and Ahsoka just believes in Anakin enough that she starts to fight him. She would have like helped him, because she knows that he has information about Darth Sidious that they need. And
I mean, to an extent, she still kind of does.
Yeah.
Bashing forward, I think the third episode of the arc, where she's like, "You're free. Do what you can. I just need you to do some whacked out stuff so we can all survive."
Get a little Darth Vader hallway scene going on.
Yeah, but I would even, but and
Oh my god, that's what I was thinking
There
when
are
I watched
so
that.
many. The amount of references to the Disney movies in this arc is insane. It's crazy.
and it's especially the Last Jedi and Rogue One. Those two were the most in your face, which is fine by me. Those are my two favorites, I think, of the new Disney films. But like going back, it's probably when they were in the big thing in the throne room. I'm gonna call it. It's probably some of the best dialogue I think I've heard in Star Wars in a hot minute.
It's
like
good.
them going back and forth, and Ahsoka really like doing what she can to hold on to her beliefs, even though she's already let them go about people who she trusted and who she didn't trust it, and then Maul really telling the truth, but in the most sick and twisted way, might be some of my favorite thing, like some of my favorite like character building I've seen. Abby, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with that because especially like I feel like Maul obviously was done very dirty with the prequels and Phantom Menace, and I think in what Dave Filoni has done and fleshed out so many characters over this series has been something like you would have never guessed like in 2001 that 1999 that like Maul would be one of the most beloved I don't even want to say beloved, but just like I don't know, like loved characters because of this journey that we've all followed him. Like one of the most interesting.
Yeah,
we'll say that.
One of the most complex.
And it's definitely between this and Rebels and like the movies. It's just been a really cool journey to watch this character in the shadows do so much that has an impact on the world of Star Wars.
And so they have probably what I'm slowly convincing myself is the best saber fight ever? Question mark.
It's up there.
It's definitely up there. The music is all time like ever because it builds up and it has these motifs in it that are really important to the lore. But it's also you see them fight with their passion versus even their force or their like them thinking. It's literally just them going at it. Because they're both so blinded by what's happening with Palpatine and in their own beliefs. So they just know that they see things differently, and no matter what happens, they're gonna have to fight. And then it becomes a thing about Maul having to leave, and then she doesn't have her lightsabers, but it doesn't matter because she has one moment of clarity, and it makes everything so perfect. Abby, one of the best lightsaber fights of all time. What did you think about that? I think it was like a 10-minute sequence, if not longer.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I don't know necessarily like a couple of the ones from the movies come to mind, but it's especially watching the like behind the scenes of the mocap of it. Like the hard work that went into it, and you can like it felt like it was just too like it didn't even feel animated, honestly. And I think that Ahsoka holding her own and like just her talking smack was so good, and it's just when the emotions are there, I think that's something that contributes to what makes it a really good lightsaber fight as opposed to just two people whacking it at each other for no reason.
Agreed.
And so that's something for sure that it was like it's funny that you said it was like probably 10 minutes because it's so enthralling. Like it felt like it was like two, but in a good way because you just like are just so mesmerized by it, you know.
Landon, what you think about this all-time high sequence of Maul and Ahsoka? The two characters that you could argue got pretty ousted early on in the lore and now are beloved as ever, which I think is also really cool when you break that down. Like two characters at first that were, for lack of a better word, shat on, and now became two best, most beloved characters in the franchise.
Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters now. I say now as though she hasn't been for a while, but I mean, like this last thing is just like Ahsoka. Like Ahsoka really has been one of my favorite characters for a long time now because of the incredible character development that she receives over the course of the show. And to see them fight is so cool. It's just beautiful. Like the footwork and everything. The move she does like a move with her lightsabers where she like throws it in the air and then catches it. I was like jaw dropped. I was amazed by the choreography. Oh my gosh.
I think what also makes it a lot more like special is just the imagery behind it, and like, and my thing is it kind of transcended just the show, because like I said before, it's just super important to the franchise as well, and like what that moment enthralls. Because I'll be honest, like when this started paralleling Revenge of the Sith, I find this way more interesting, way better done, and like a lot more compelling than Sith was. And I'm like, this is what I wanted to see. This is how people are being affected because of Order 66, or because of Sidious doing everything in the back. This is what kind of like makes war so sad, is everyone who's affected by it, for better or worse. Does this make any sense, or am I just spouting bullshit?
No, it makes sense. I think that this last arc especially, and I wanted to talk about it a little more when we get into the effect of the Clone Wars as a whole. But this arc especially just grounds Revenge of the Sith in reality to me.
Yeah.
Because there's so much in Revenge of the Sith where it's like, you look at the Clone Wars and then you watch Revenge of the Sith and it's like, oh man, so much happens in Revenge of the Sith that's just crazy. But I feel like having this backdrop for Revenge of the Sith with the Clone Wars makes it flow together so incredibly well, like far more than I even imagined that it would, to where it feels like the events of Revenge of the Sith make sense within the Star Wars galaxy far more than they already did.
Yeah.
And it just has so much more, I guess, information to add, but also meaning to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I mean, the emotional context of the Clone Wars is not in the prequels.
Yeah.
Like
you don't get to know the clones.
Exactly. I mean,
even without the show.
Even without the clone, like even just not taking the clones out of it, like you don't get, like you barely understand what the damage of the wars is to the world. Because it literally starts with the Clone Wars, and then Revenge of the Sith is the final days of the Clone Wars. And so like you don't see what the effect has on the normal citizens of the galaxy as well, and what it like how it affects everyone. And I think that is something that could have been done. Like this isn't going to be like what we could have done with the prequels talk, but like something that should have been addressed in the prequels more. And I think Clone Wars really does that, and it gives Revenge of the Sith and the rest of the movies a far better experience, because you get that emotional context. Whether or not that should be there in the first place, that's a different question. But for sure that it provides like just more emotions for you as a viewer.
It keeps it more grounded almost. In a reality, we're like, oh, this is actually war. It's just not people shooting droids or lightsabers swinging around. It's oh, people's lives are actually being affected by this, and you feel more emotion in general about the people who are not only in the war but also affected by it. But that kind of leads us into episode 3, where Maul gets captured, and we're now on the ship, and we finally see Order 66 happen. The turning point. Literally everything changes. When Order 66 gets called, what was y'all's first reaction? Because I was shocked, because it just kind of happens. There was no tension, there's no build up. It's just like boom, Order 66.
I think there's a lot of tension.
Yeah.
I think the tension builds up the entire episode. The music especially carries it to the point where when it finally happens, like I was freaking out because you feel like Maul because he's trapped and he knows what's about to happen, and you're like, oh god, like this is coming.
Abby.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that because you know what Ahsoka doesn't, and you don't like you know what the clone troopers don't know yet. So to watch that go down and to see it from her perspective is really heartbreaking because we know what happens to everyone else. Like we've seen Star Wars, but to see it from this angle with a character we love was really heartbreaking for sure, especially because she has such a special attachment and she grew up with these people. It's just to watch them struggle to, like, especially Rex, like you can see the decision going on in his head, but he can't stop it, you know? And so it's just a really heartbreaking thing to watch.
Yeah, it makes season, we were talking about this earlier, season 6 when they were talking about the chip, or was it season 5? Yeah, season 6, where they're talking about the chip and kind of why Fives was acting the way he was and whatnot. And then I think it all kind of clicks for Rex at one point, but because he's programmed the way he has to be programmed, and everything, the man shot the shot at Ahsoka, and it was almost heart-wrenching because you just don't think it's gonna happen. You don't want to believe it, but it does. But I think what's really impressive about this sequence is we finally get a real eye for about how resourceful Ahsoka is. She's very good at the maneuver. We're gonna get out here, get safe, and actually gonna do something later about it. I wasn't worried about her living. It was a matter of just how is she gonna pull this off. So outside of the whole heart-wrenching thing, when the sequence happens and she finally gets safe, what are you feeling? What are you thinking about the sequence in general? Landon, why not?
Well, after, I mean, seeing Rex, if you look, Rex is literally crying, and to see him shaking and fighting against it, it's really heartbreaking, and it's kind of a they really twist the knife because you think because he removes the chip later that he's not going to do Order 66, and then oh no, he does it. It's really heartbreaking. And then after that, it was such a nice touch to bring in Ahsoka's droid, R7. What a throwback. I completely forgot about R7, and R7 wasn't even that big of a thing in the series, but it was such a nostalgic, friendly face
Oh my god.
to see. And then there's another one of the droids, I think it was named Gigi, which I have a cousin named Gigi, so I was like, oh my gosh. And then the other droid, the other droid's name is I can't remember its name, but it's the same style as Chopper,
Oh yeah.
which is awesome. And just it feels like such a nice little thing that I think George Lucas especially would have been happy to see. It feels very Dave Filoni to have the droids come in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think what makes it all the better is that's right after, I think, was it before or after she releases Maul to wreak havoc when she sees the droids?
It's
after.
Yeah. So we get this really dark moment where she has to release Maul. She doesn't have a choice. You can't fight all those clones alone. There's just literally too many of them. So she releases Maul, and we as the audience, we need a moment of levity. We've nearly seen Ahsoka get killed. We've seen her had to make probably a decision that she could regret forever. So we see the droids, and it's one of the most wholesome moments that we're probably gonna get out of this arc. Those droids kind of gave me enough life to keep me going through this, through these deep and depressing times. And then she gets Rex. And I think this is why I like Ahsoka so much. She was smart enough to actually understand where she could find the information out and figure out how Order 66 is at least a thing in the clones, and she gets that chip out or whatever it was. It was I forget how they call it. I'm just gonna call it a chip, but she's able to get it out of Rex's head. What the issue was.
Can we just talk about how she says as she's working on it, the Force is with me, like the quote
Another
from
Rogue One reference.
a rogue, like, oh my God, I literally got the chills when that's like when she started saying that.
So
Or
good.
what is it? I'm one with the force.
I'm one with the Force, the
Yeah.
Force is with me. And then Rex
Yeah.
starts saying it. And that's the only reason that she can find the chip.
Oh my God. Just
And I don't think that also works if Rex and Ahsoka don't have such a strong bond anyways beforehand. They like because they were already like connected on a level of like really good friends, also soldiers, hand in hand. And like if that was just like a random clone, I don't think that works in that moment. But because they were already so tight from beforehand, it was possible. It was made plausible for that moment to happen, and you just get this overwhelming sense of Ahsoka wants to at least save her friend and save herself. A real like moment of desperation, but levity at the same time.
for sure.
So then they get free, and then the episode ends, which one of the coolest like cliffhangers because you know what's coming next, but you're still gonna watch next episode anyways because it was like that third episode of the arc was absolutely incredible. The fact that it all happened on the Star Destroyer, and that was the single place, yet we had all this tension, all this buildup, I think was incredible. We didn't have to go like 10,000 different locations to actually like tell a pretty like in-depth story. I thought that was really cool.
They're just trapped is what's so cool about it. They're trapped on there. So it really raises a lot of tension. And to have Maul as this third party that's just kind of anarchy, ripping apart the ship and everything in the final episode, it just adds such a nice chaotic variable on top of the main struggle that's so intense.
In moving on to the last episode, so Ahsoka, like I said, super resourceful. She waits until they actually break down the door to like clear themselves of I think it was like 10 different droids, and then she tells Rex, "You stun them, you don't kill them," because she still cares about these clones. She doesn't. And it was also, I think, at one point, I don't forget who she says this to. The Jedi were meant to be peacekeepers, not warriors. And I think part of like her idea and mantra about what a Jedi or her role in all this is supposed to be is the fact that like she wants to keep peace. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. So I found that really interesting. But this is practically just them trying to get out, and that's kind of the bottom line. And we see the parallel of doing it what you could call the human way versus the chaotic Maul way, and I found that really interesting because you still have these two people who are both split because of different issues within the Sith and the Jedi, and we still see them parallel throughout this, and I love that they were able to like keep it going even until the last episode. What do you think about I'm going to call the great escape of the falling Star Destroyer? So why not? Abby.
Well, I think something that this arc is an example of is that Star Wars stories work best. I'm not going to say completely work best but they completely work best when it's a smaller story and it's more contained, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like this insane end of the world battle. Like, yes, it is a big moment in the Clone Wars, but it's just Ahsoka and Maul and these troopers. It's not a big Revenge of the Sith or Return of the Jedi type thing happening. And so watching this episode, especially with the falling Star Destroyer, it was just a lot, especially knowing it's the last episode. I think if I would have predicted what the last episode was going to be about, it wouldn't have been this necessarily. Like, I don't think I would have predicted the last arc would have just been solely an Ahsoka arc. I think I would have imagined something with like the whole cast or like something a little bit bigger in my mind. But I think that it worked perfectly for what the show is about.
Landon.
I agree. I think Dave Filoni, when he was making it, or somebody, not when he was making it, but recently when somebody asked him about how much of Revenge of the Sith we would see, especially regarding Obi-Wan and Anakin. He said, well, we see the end of their arcs in Revenge of the Sith, and the Clone Wars introduces Ahsoka and Rex, so he wanted to make it end on Ahsoka and Rex. And I think that that's super important because obviously we love Anakin and Obi-Wan, but I think that the Clone Wars, I think it was a very smart move to focus it and narrow it down to Ahsoka and Rex's situation here, not only for in this individual episode, because since we don't see anything of the wider scale, we feel like we're trapped on the ship with them as an audience, but also because of the emotional connections that it really bolsters in Ahsoka and Rex, and being able to see them without getting distracted by all these big legacy characters. I just think, I don't know, I think it was really intense last episode. The fact that they escape on a Y-Wing is so cool because not only is it a throwback to earlier in the show, but I also love the Y-Wings specifically. So I was like giddy about seeing them escape on a Y-Wing. I just think it's such a nice touch. A lot of sad stuff happens though.
Yeah. We can jump into I think the great escape of the Star Destroyer, I'm gonna keep quoting that, it's not gonna catch on, but we're gonna keep going, was probably one of my favorite. Just like there's a lot of action happening, well, so like the emotion was there. This was very, we got to get out, and it's a do or die kind of thing, and you always feel that throughout the whole episode. There's a point where Ahsoka's getting shot at right before they get onto the ship, and she's getting hit. Like, she is taking bullets. And at that moment, I'm like, wait, they're really doing this to me. I don't think she's going to make it. And then she makes it, obviously. But they really have you thinking. Like, she is desperate to live through this because she pushes Rex onto the ship, and then all of a sudden, everything breaks free, and she's in this free fall. It's some Tom Cruise Mission Impossible shit. And it was just really cool seeing her navigate that because, like I said, I think the coolest thing about Ahsoka is she's really resourceful. And she understands what's around her and how to get there. So she knows that she has to get back to Rex's ship. And Rex, just also being the incredible soldier that he is, realizes the situation too and how she's trying to like get to him and vice versa. And it was just really cool to see them work together without having to actually like communicate out loud. It does a really good job of like capping off their relationship, at least in the series, and how they've grown together as characters. So I thought that was really cool. And we also get to the point where I'm going to call it like the saddest funeral I've ever seen.
Well, it really tears your heart out because a lot of the characters like in the Clone Troopers, and because we've gotten so much development for the Clone Troopers as well, we know that they're people, and to see them literally be brainwashed to kill people that they trust and know, especially Jesse, because Jesse's been like one of the main clones of the 501st, and like they have like their crew, and it's like
but it's very on brand for Ahsoka to honor them in the way that she did.
Yeah.
And I think that just is such a beautiful moment and showcases her character the best. Because even after all that, she tries to give them like a proper burial and monument for them.
Which even at the risk of being discovered that they survived too.
Yeah.
I also like the really emotional part for me about this, and I was talking to Abby while it was happening, the Kevin Kline score. Holy moly. I want to say this is the first time I've ever heard a guitar used in a Star Wars score. It's very faint, very small, but like that got me going because I'm like, let's look at you revolutionizing Star Wars music one episode at a time. And it really hits on some strings because it's so grand yet so somber at the same time, because it really it closes a book on a whole war that was just meant for one person puppeteering everything, and all the lives that were lost where you could argue meaningless. because someone was in the back the whole time, and it's just really great, really complex music. We Landon, the Kevin Kline score, pop off for me, please.
It's beautiful. And for one thing, if you really like the score, I just confirmed before we started recording that it is available on Spotify. So go give that a listen. But yeah, I think Kevin Kiner does an absolute fantastic job. I mean, I've always loved the Clone Wars score, and oh my gosh, he throws in a couple of references to some of the older music. There's the Clones music plays, which I used to love because I'm a big like score, like film music enjoyer person, whatever you would call that.
Listener.
But specifically when it comes to Star Wars. And so I used to listen to a lot of the Clone Wars music, and he plays the clones in the episode where Order 66 happens. And then the last episode starts with kind of a new rendition of the funeral music for Padme, which really got me in the feelings. I was like, oh shoot, it's about to go down. Like, this is it. This is the finale. And it's sad because really Revenge of the Sith is a tragedy. It's almost like Shakespearean in a way because you have everything start out fun and happy with the main characters. Like, things are really going Anakin's way, especially. And then, because he is a tragic hero with a tragic flaw, which is that he cares about people so much, but to the point where he would sacrifice anything for the people that he cared about. And so then when push comes to shove, it's all about the character's decisions and what they do, and we see everything go bad by the end of it, just terrible. And it's just really interesting to see that the effects of those decisions come across on other characters.
Abby, Kevin Kline score. What do you got for us?
It's always been, music has always been such an integral part of Star Wars, and this show is no different. I think that Star Wars composers know what they're doing, and they know when to hit us in the feels and how they want to do that. And I think that the music especially it's enhanced the whole series, but especially these last couple episodes for sure. And I think just similar to the music is that Dave Filoni's little moments of just even adding like a Lucasfilm limited production and the old font, and like just in general, like all like the things that he's done to remind you like that, like even just watching it and it ending and it says created by George Lucas. Dave Filoni just has such a love for him and what he's done, and I think that it like that's always the stuff that gets me. Like right now my Twitter banner is like a Lucasfilm limited production because I just really appreciated the shout out in that way, and I think Dave has always been very nostalgic in the way that he has, just with the little titles and stuff. I think that it shows his love for Star Wars as a whole.
I think that kind of brings us to like the overall end and we can like recap this last arc because it feels like its own movie almost. It's to its own point. Where we see Vader that used to be Anakin, now Vader, come in and he picks up her saber, which has its all sorts of imagery on it because he gave her saber back at the start of all of this, and now he's taken it back, which and I think it just does a really good job of like of just in general like wrapping up the whole series because it was always doomed from the start. And I think that's kind of what makes it so special, because it's such a somber moment. But there's no levity to it, because it's the honest and brutal like scenario where like he went down to the dark side, and we all can just kind of have to deal with that, even as audience viewers. Landon, what are your thoughts on like just kind of how it all wraps up, and what it kind of meant to you, almost, if it makes any sense, not to be cheesy?
Yeah, I was very surprised to see anything Empire,
Yeah.
especially in Clone Wars. It was really neat to see Darth Vader in Clone Wars animation,
Yeah.
just on its own, let alone the emotional um, levity that it had. There's a little detail that I got really giddy about, which is the convor, the little bird owl kind of thing flying around. That's kind of Ahsoka's spirit animal, to put it in one sense. If you remember the I don't want to like go off on a tangent, but the Mortis arc with the daughter sacrificing herself for Ahsoka,
Yeah.
and it has the same color scheme, and it's kind of a reoccurring thing in Rebels. So really, the last scene bridges the gap between the Clone Wars and Rebels, and it kind of nicely flows into it in such a beautiful way. And I don't know, I had a friend who said that like some people online are like, oh, I was surprised that it ended so quickly. And I don't think it really did. I think it flows so well together with the rest of Ahsoka's story and Rex's story. I think it's really beautiful, and to see the end of a show that I have grown up with and loved for so long, it's really a special moment. I think it's sad in a way, but at the same time, we know that there's hope because of, it's cheesy, but because of Luke and Leia. So there's kind of a hope, a light at the end of the tunnel, and we know that Ahsoka survives. Hashtag Ahsoka lives. So it's emotional in a sad way, but also I think that we were really gifted something super special with this, and I think that um as fans of the Clone Wars, it's just really, it really means a lot to see Dave go all out, and all of the team at Clone Wars really put their heart and soul into finishing something that they didn't even think they were going to be able to finish.
Yeah.
So
um the show finally wraps up, Abby. Obviously all the emotions are running through.
yeah, Abby.
What did you take away from this?
For me, it's definitely like it's always just a beautiful thing to watch a show from start to finish and feel satisfied with it at the end. I feel like that comes far and farther between for me these days. But something like Star Wars has always meant a lot to me personally, and I think that Clone Wars, especially with people our age, because like for people like Landon, like that's their introduction to Star Wars lore and Star Wars content, and for a lot of years, Ahsoka was arguably the strongest female character for a while. So she means a lot to me as a female viewer and consumer of Star Wars. And it's very emotional to think that it did get an ending because, again, like we didn't think we would. And I watched it growing up just casually. And then a couple years ago, I watched the entire show in chronological order. And it really was an interesting experience to truly watch those character arcs. And there's something so special about the way that it explains the Force and the dynamics of what became the Empire and the death of the Republic. And it's just a beautiful show from start to finish. Like, yes, it has its kid show moments, but even then, like, it's very much a serial, and this season was especially like a serial show, and it's very sad for me. And it just makes me want to watch other Star Wars stuff or just rewatch it again.
I I can definitely attest to that because like if you follow my Twitter, I have a very complicated relationship with Clone Wars. Because I think like the first 2 episodes, because I saw it casually growing up on Cartoon Network, and it was just popping like, oh, it's a Star Wars show, great. And that's kind of all it was to me. And then I didn't, obviously I didn't pay much attention to it because it was just like, oh, it's Star Wars, it's great. But then I went to go do a rewatch. I want to say like 4 years back, and I couldn't do it. Like the personally speaking, the first 2 seasons are super rough. So I remember like trying to do that rewatch at least like once a year and it not working out. And then with the new season coming out, I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I have to do it. If I don't, I'm failing myself. I'm failing Star Wars fans. So I got through seasons 1 and 2. It was fine. And then from there, specifically seasons 3, 5, and then like half of 6, I think are some of the best Star Wars storytelling to date. And then I finally figured out the love for the show and like why it means so much to so many people, because especially a lot of the Mandalore stuff hits super hard. Kind of Yoda's little Force journey, and also there's an arc with Anakin and Obi-Wan where they go into like a different realm almost with the Force, with like good, evil, and then the dad, the dad, and then the son and the daughter. Yeah, and that in itself was mind blowing. The fact that they did that. And then season 7 comes out, which that in itself is very it was weird because I really enjoyed the start of the Echo arc. But it does this thing where Clone Wars did a little too much for me, where we just had a lot of filler. And it was like, all right, we've got the point of the arc, let's keep going, because we all knew there was like a KO punch coming for us, which we got gracefully. But I was like, let's get going. And then we also had the arc where Ahsoka comes back. And I've had this conversation in depth with a bunch of my friends, just like, it didn't hit for me the way I wanted it to. I would complain on Twitter, which you shouldn't complain on Twitter. Bad habits. Just because, like, you almost wanted better for Ahsoka, especially when she's first reintroduced. But I know there's a lot of people that love how they deal with her and the 2 sisters, and kind of like, we almost see the more human side of Ahsoka and her trying to like actually understand that, like, oh no, there is more to this than just Jedi and what, fighting. It's literal people's lives being changed forever due to a war. But again, personally, it's like, it's a roller coaster ride. Clone Wars for me has always been a roller coaster ride. The ups are super up, but the downs are like really down. So I'm glad it ended the way it did, because it ends on really like placing a mark in Lucasfilm and placing a mark in, I would even say, like, Star Wars history.
I would argue for because I know a lot of people were not a big fan of the Martez sisters. I would argue that arc, throwing out the word filler is always complicated, because
it is.
Yeah, because to a degree, yes, I guess it's filler if you're looking at it from a sense of, okay, we know that the show is about to end. But I think that the purpose of the episodes are to show that Ahsoka really grasps this idea that even though the Jedi are flawed, she can still fight for what she believes in. And I think that it's one last crucial character development for Ahsoka before we see the end of her arc. And I think that one thing that's so beautiful about the Clone Wars, and something that's so special about it to me, is that we get to see so many different fun episodes that are just, it's just George's imagination going wild, George and Dave together. And that really speaks to a lot of the storyteller in me, because I want to tell stories about stuff all the time. I want to be a writer. kind of really want to write for Star Wars eventually someday. And even like the first and second seasons, I know for the first one especially, it's not like the greatest television that you've ever seen. It just isn't, and especially because the animation is very clunky at the time, and it has a long ways to go. I think there's still value in it because it, for one thing, still has messages towards the younger audiences, which at the end of the day is what Star Wars is really aiming for. Really any storytelling, and you if you hear any conversation about George, or I think this is a quote from Jon Favreau recently talking about George, and something that he learned from Joseph Campbell, which is how storytelling really at the end of the day is about passing on the lessons that older generations have learned to younger generations. And I think that the Clone Wars really kind of, in a cheesy way, because it's still like a fun Saturday, or originally Friday night cartoon, and then Saturday morning cartoon. So you get like your cheesy bad guys and that kind of thing. But I think that a lot of the storytelling really revolves around Anakin and Ahsoka. And for someone who did get into it at a young age, to see Ahsoka, even though I'm not a girl, I can still like connect with Ahsoka and kind of imagine being a Jedi during the time of the Clone Wars and all of this. So a lot of, even like some of the visuals and stuff, even though the animation's not like insane, like some of the early seasons of the Clone Wars is some of my favorite Star Wars stuff, just because I don't know, I just
Remember the Jar Jar Binks episodes?
Jar Jar Binks episodes, it's a little dicey. I'll say that.
But it's a part of it. It's a part of it.
Yeah. It's still like a hoot, though, Yeah,
it's still a good time. And then there's like the girl Jar Jar Binks
that he kisses that one time randomly. They go, not only do we have Jar Jar Binks with Mace Windu, and not only are there witches, but also Jar Jar Binks kisses a girl version of himself.
That's like pink, right?
That's pink, and she's like a queen or something.
Oh my god! See, like
that arc was interesting though, at least, because like it was, people are using the Force that aren't Jedi or Sith. These are people that are like in tune with it, but they reject anything that is good or bad because it just exists, and like that was their whole thing. That was interesting. Just outside of Jar Jar, like being the connoisseur for it all, it's just like, okay, we get it.
This world would not happen without Jar Jar Binks, and he is integral to everything.
You ever just think about the fact that Jar Jar Binks exists on the same universe as Rey?
Okay, let's like just have that conversation. Like the most obscure, like Jar Jar Binks and Lieutenant Connix.
Princess Leia.
Princess Leia. Oh
like, imagine Princess Leia if she ever interacted with Jar Jar Binks.
I was thinking about that with the last couple episodes of Clone Wars, because Darth Maul knows Annie, like episode 1 Annie, like he's seen him with his eyes, but he also knows like Kira.
Yeah, and heavily influences Han Solo in a way.
Yeah, so like just I don't know. I just like Darth Maul just because he's covered a lot of timeline.
Yeah.
And like I'm just like he fought Qui-Gon Jinn, but also like is in Solo.
Yeah.
He's seen some shit, honestly.
Oh, he has.
Maul's gone through. I see now why Maul is as evil as he is. He's really just gone through it. Like Maul deserves to be angry. I'll give it to him. Maul doesn't need to be redeemed. Maul's an icon, and he does what he does for good reason. Change my mind.
I would argue that he's still a bad guy.
Yeah, I would say he's still questionable in morals.
Yeah.
Hey. look, when you go to order when you get replaced by Annie, because that's what happened. He literally gets replaced by Annie.
Annie,
when it's all said and done.
Annie.
Misa, so smiling to see you so again.
Oh my god.
It's like Jar Jar's here.
I would be mad too. I would be
Hey,
frustrated.
my last name is Best, and all my last name is Best. So,
Are you related?
can't you see the family resemblance?
Oh my god.
You know, you make a strong case.
Yeah.
What's off topic, but why not? What's funny is the Darth Maul you didn't see walking around a lot growing up, but like in Halloween costumes or whatever, like it wasn't a big thing. But
You
I had
don't
a
see it walking around a lot nowadays either.
excuse. But one of the-
I just didn't know what you meant by walking around.
You don't see him walking around very much.
you don't see him walking around these towns of Tennessee or Virginia. But one of my friends dressed up as him for Halloween. It was one of the best cosplays I've ever seen because they literally did the whole makeup and they even put horns on him too. It was incredible. I just wanted to mention that because it freaked me out.
Landon and I are dressing up this Halloween, right, Landon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we
Is
know
that-
what though?
Y'all could do Maul and Ahsoka.
Ooh, that's pretty
Oh my
good.
god. That's a lot of makeup though.
That is a lot. We
It's
would
worth
both have to be literally painted.
It's worth it. Like what? Like honestly, name a more iconic duo than Maul and Ahsoka?
Any iconic
I could name a few.
I can name a fair few.
Never mind. In the context, they're the most iconic duo that exists. So I think that kind of halfway wraps things up. Is there anything that like y'all want to mention about either your journey with Clone Wars or like how, or kind of like what Clone Wars kind of means to the universe and like the grander scheme of things? Because I know I'm doing a Rebels rewatch after this because it's probably the most direct tie-in outside of Sith that exists. Mandalorian obviously is going to change something season 2 for great
Let's
reason.
just talk about Ahsoka, like Mandalorian season 2.
Ahsoka being in Mandalorian.
And Rex.
Do you
Rex is
think-
there too.
Do you think
So-
Rex is gonna be there?
Yeah, because I think I don't know if Filoni was mentioning this his cover art, if that was for the Mandalorian or if that was going to be for Clone Wars, but we didn't see that shot in Clone Wars, so I'm pretty sure Rex and Ahsoka are gonna be in the Mandalorian, which
I'm
gets
not
me-
gonna get my hopes up, honestly. Well, because Rex is doing his Rebel Alliance stuff.
But when does the Mandalorian take place? Like how directly after the Clone Wars is it? Like that's what I want to know.
Mandalorian is 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Oh shit, that's right. Never mind.
Yeah.
I have my
So
time
I
on-
mean, Rex could be around. They would have to get Tamora Morrison.
Yeah, he gonna be old.
out.
Isn't Rex who's the clone in Return of the Jedi at Endor? Isn't that
That's
Rex?
right.
Yes,
I
Rex
think
is
Rex.
in Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
So then Rex has got to be 5 years older than that white bearded Rex.
And remember, he ages twice as fast
So
as a normal human being.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. All the
Yeah.
clones age twice as fast. So that's why they're created 10 years prior to the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So
So they're
biologically, they're 20, but in reality, they're only 10 years old.
Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about here. It's
Oh.
Ahsoka and Rex. Oh, oops, there it is. It's Ahsoka and Rex. and
Oh,
that's
hello.
Twitter cover right now.
Yeah.
Whose Twitter cover is this?
Filoni's.
I did not know that.
So that
Well,
Or
and
you
you
know.
know, Sabine and Ahsoka are also looking for Ezra.
because he's
so-
probably Mandalorian's gonna get so good. Season 2 Mandalorian. I
Yeah.
don't know.
But
okay.
I think it's just gonna be a cameo. I don't think they're gonna do anything like insanely involved.
They got Rosario Dawson for it.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind too, though, we're gonna have other Star Wars shows that we don't even know about, and the Cassian show is gonna be taking place right around the time of Rebels, and that's when Ahsoka was like involved with the Rebel Alliance. So I'm thinking we're gonna be seeing Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, like popping up in different shows.
That makes sense for sure.
Yeah, and
You're
I
giving
think
me
they're gonna
because
do like another animated show that takes place after Rebels, probably coinciding with the timeline of Mandalorian. So it'll just
that
be like
sounds
a little tie-in there.
because I think what I'm starting to appreciate is all these side stories are it builds and it makes the bigger movies obviously I would even say better, like especially with the last arc of Clone Wars. I have never seen a piece of art make another piece of art this much better. I think that was the part that blew me away. I'm like, wait, this actually makes Revenge of the Sith better. I didn't know it was possible to do that. It's not retconning anything either. It literally just adds to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what blew me away about the last arc or whatever. The fact that like it literally made Revenge of the Sith a way better film than it like I personally thought it was. So but it also ties into the fact that like Rebels really adds to A New Hope and it just adds to all these different stories. So I think it's gonna halfway wrap things up here. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I like getting
for having us, Evan.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was super fun.
I know it's always a joyful time with you two, especially Landon. Abby, you're okay.
Dang.
Anyways, so we're gonna plug a couple of things and we'll get you cool cats out of here. First of all, tomorrow I'm interviewing Pat Hogue. That guy's awesome. I'm not, so make sure you guys see that. And then something rotten on Wednesday with Stacey Howard, one of my favorite Schmodown competitors. Frank and Peach are gonna be talking with her about the Miami Returns. And then last but not least, we're gonna out here be plugging Brothers Bloom. Ryan Johnson month continues, which May 22nd is gonna be a lot. I'm excited for it. The Last Jedi. Please don't come into the comments and kill us. That's all I have to ask. And that's kind of got to be it. Landon, if you want the people to find you online, where can they find you online?
They can find me online at my Twitter at Landon. I can't remember if it's .best or _best. It's always.
I think it's underscore.
It's _best at Landon.best is my Instagram if you want to go there. And then my YouTube channel, Superfish Films, which I think eventually I'm going to start putting out some Star Wars content on there.
Ooh,
a little bit, yeah. So,
all right, Abby, I would have you.
He also has a Star Wars Instagram.
I have a Star Wars Instagram at womp.rats. Yeah.
None of this come up. I am here to support and follow, and you don't bring this up, Landon. Come on.
I have. You hear it now. Go follow it. Yeah, go hit it with a couple follows.
Womp.rats, everyone, on Instagram. Make sure you check it out. Abby, I would have you plug yourself. I'm pretty sure anyone who either retweeted this or follows me or is watching this probably already follows you. So goodbye. I'm just kidding. Where can people find you?
Okay, cool. You guys can follow me if you're listening to this. You can follow me at Abigail Friel on every platform, and my YouTube channel, that's still Abigail Friel. And tonight, Landon and I and a couple of our friends are going to be breaking down the best Star Wars character. We're going to be ranking every Star Wars character. Not every Star Wars character. That's a lot, but we have some deep cuts in there, and I'm super excited. I made the bracket a little bit ago. So.
All right. Do you guys have Jabba in there?
Yes. I have some
Dexter.
deep cuts. Dexter, Momon Nadon.
Momon Nadon.
I have her real name in here, but it's Tally Lintra, which is Bombs Away
Girl.
Yariel
My favorite.
R5D4, Nian Nub, Plo Koon.
Oh, we got some
Sebulba,
good ones.
Porkins.
These are some deep cut.
K2SO's not a deep cut, but he's on there. And then just like everyone, like Han, Leia, Rey, Finn, Poe, Jin, Ursa, Orson Krennic, Shmi is on there. I want to see how far Shmi can get. I'm really excited. So that's gonna be tonight, and
that's
I'm
really
super
fun.
excited. Celebrating May the 4th. So
no. I just had to make sure Job was gonna get in there, or I don't think Chris would let you on Mario Kart on Saturday.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna get a Switch soon. Or I'm
Are
gonna
you?
try to,
Wait,
hopefully.
dude, get it,
Landon.
and you can play Mario Kart with us.
I really want to.
You can really have some degenerate boy hours with us. It's great. Let's get a Switch. But yeah, you can also, last but not least, we're doing Mario Kart on Family Game Night. So far, I believe we have Abby, me,
I'm
Abby.
supposed to be on there.
All right, great. Chris Clark. I think we have Linus Babcock joining us as well, and we're gonna get 2 more cool cats. And then with that, that's gonna signal end the show. Again, thanks Abby, thanks Landon. You guys are great, and see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Please leave this office.
Do we get any sort of souvenir?
Get out of my office!
I'll be back.
I gotta pay.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. He's the info.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Heavy is the head that eats the crayons. I'm gonna take a nap. See you in 10 hours.
Dude, I almost had you. You almost had me. You never had me.
I like your style, dude.
End of line.